This is the last video that you will see of me, I promise. So you guys did all your predictions. I like reading those predictions because I get to see what each one of you thinks, unfiltered and not tied to a particular article or analysis, just what you're thinking about, what you're interested in. And then all of you together, I get to see sort of a snapshot of 70 or 80 of you. And what are the things in this moment that you're all talking about? That's really fun. So I'm going to offer my own predictions. And maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. A bit of doom and gloom here. I haven't made a positive, uplifting prediction in a while. So, at the domestic level, our politics is a mess. It's dysfunctional, and it's dysfunctional because we're dysfunctional, and I don't know how to fix that exactly. Voter turnout is up as of late. That's good. We want more people. Well, if you think more democracy is good, then you want more people participating. I'm not sure that's a good idea. We'll have to set that aside. We have more people participating, and so the question is, are those people participating in good faith and with good understanding of their own position and the opposition? And if that's the case, then we would see something better emerge, something more nuanced and thoughtful. Also, it would be very effective, very beneficial if we moved away from primary voting into ranked choice voting. That would actually decrease radicalization, I think, quite a bit. So if any of you are concerned about any of this, look into ranked choice voting. Trump, AOC, to take your pick of these various clownish politicians, they're a symptom of a problem, our dysfunction. They're not the problem. Well, they might be a bit of a problem, but they're a symptom, to be clear. Technology is a huge problem for us. It's like the nuclear bomb. It's like nuclear technology. It's incredibly powerful and great things can be accomplished, but terrible things can be accomplished. And there's two things I'll say about it. Setting aside AI and its problems, there are a couple things that's evident. Young people and social media, bad mix, increased depression, anxiety, loneliness, increased rates of suicide or suicidality. Kids should not be on social media. End of story. There's just no middle ground. They should not be until late teens at earliest. Separately, technology in school seems to be bad. And I don't mean social media. I mean kids, according to recent data that I've seen, kids need to learn how to read and write and do math manually. Adding digital media, digital technology into this experience, iPads and computers as this interface, has been harmful. Over the last 3 generations, 3 decades, I don't remember which, we have seen rates of educational success, educational attainment go down across all cohorts. So the rate of technology, the type of technology that we have integrated into our lives right now is not, we're not built for that. We're psychologically, mentally, emotionally, socially not built for that. It's not good. And of course, I say this with my addictive device here, and I'm doing this for you on here. Nonetheless, probably need to pull back a lot on kids having access to technology and certainly social media. Maybe that'll be a step in the right direction. No guarantees. I've noticed an interesting resurgence. I've seen this in the last 7 or so years, and I see it, still currently, a resurgence of some sort of religious revival and Christian in nature in the United States. And that's going to have, if it's sustained, it'll have some pretty interesting impacts going in a couple different directions, and I can't say yet, but I'm aware of it, and you ought to notice it as well. And maybe you're like, yeah, no, I'm that. A lot of young people seem to be gravitating back towards not just religion, but a more conservative, traditional type of religion, orthodoxy, Catholicism. The postmodern world is a gross, disgusting, confusing, empty, nihilistic world. And humans, by and large, as we've talked about, humans like a coherent moral order. And a secular world doesn't provide that. It can't, by definition. And so it seems to be that people are gravitating back towards something that gives them an anchor point, a moral compass, a story, a narrative that gives their life meaning in the world that you live in, that we live in. And so I'm not surprised that it's happening. So pay attention to that. There's social movements that have been huge in the last several years. Certainly BLM, for example, the trans movement. Um, from my academic point of view, I separate LGB and TQIA plus. I think those are actually meaningfully different things, and you can track through time when one was moving and then made huge gains, and then this other thing appeared, right, and added on and started using the same political and social mechanisms for activism. So I separate them out. They're also their actual claims are different. So TQIA plus I see as different from LGB. I know why people put them together. I understand. They made big strides, big claims. They became very popular, very powerful, even with a small number of individuals. But there's been a huge pullback, or rather a pushback. And so in the coming years, there will be some sort of negotiation that will mitigate what their goals initially were, possibly. But also the possibility is it largely falls away. And some of you might think, well, how can those people just go away? It's complicated, no time in this video, just a prediction I'm making. Either way, what we'll see is that fervor of the last 5 or 7 years of the TQIA plus movement will decline. BLM, we certainly want greater inclusivity. We want people to be treated fairly. Equity, I think, is a bad policy. So I don't ever advocate equity, or I rarely advocate for equity. But inclusivity is good. We're a diverse society, and so those diverse people should be included. But BLM as a particular movement had a lot of problems with it. And the underlying claims, from its philosophical underpinnings, from Robin DiAngelo and Ibram Kendi and a host of others, was largely discredited. They actually rarely show up to defend their ideas when brought up, in discourse. Not to mention the BLM organization, Garza, Kalures, I don't remember the other woman's name, were all badly corrupt, with lots of misappropriation of funds that they gathered based on people's honest belief that the dollars were going to go to help Black communities. And that didn't happen in the way that they hoped. So that movement really kind of stumbled. What we do moving forward, hopefully, will, in good faith, create opportunity and will not treat people unfairly for their immutable characteristics, or as Etzioni says, ascribed statuses. And actually, I think color blindness is probably the best way forward, with a concern not for the color, the race, the identity of a person, but if we actually take more time to think about socioeconomic status, we'll probably solve more problems for people more broadly. And Coleman Hughes, young guy, did a TED talk about color blindness recently, which kind of informed some of that, although I already kind of thought that in the first place. Domestic stuff, right? Cybersecurity, personal identity, and all that stuff. I would love to see that fixed. I would love to see my identity be secure. I would love to see my identity not be gathered and shared, with the world and the corporations and the government. But that's never going to happen. It's the world we live in, the dystopian Orwellian future. It's we're there more or less on that front. The environment, the global warming and all that. Concerning. I tend to be skeptical of anyone that addresses any type of thing with a religious level fervor. I you seem a little crazy about this. I can understand why people might be crazy about it. Nonetheless, if you want to make a big impact, fossil fuels aren't going away. If you remove fossil fuels tomorrow, a couple billion people die, probably. Hydro, solar, wind, not even close, not even scratching the surface of fulfilling our need, and the technology is not even close. Even if they made leaps and bounds in transmission technology, in storage and battery technology, if the photovoltaic cells in solar panels had some huge leap, it still wouldn't even scratch the surface. Nuclear is the big thing that is staring us in the face, that is the solution to all of our problems. And for some good and a lot of bad reasons, people are scared of it. And that's unfortunate because that would vastly improve the lives of humans across the planet. Nuclear power. Oh well. On to the international. Telling this story in the right order is a little tough, but I'll start here. Europe and Russia hate each other. Ukraine is at the center of it. And it's my estimation that the West, United States and Europe, are just using Ukrainian lives to bleed Russia white, which is kind of gross, but that's great power politics for you. Whether or not Russia has legitimate claims to their fears and concerns about NATO, which are somewhat understandable, it's kind of beside the point. What is going to happen is if Europe continues to support and give aid to Ukraine so they can fight Russia, and if they make incursions into Russia, or if they try to strike, for example, one leg of their nuclear triad, Russia is going to at some point get really serious and do some maybe scary shit to mainland Europe or to broader Europe that nobody's going to want to see. They're never going to give back that roughly 20% of Ukraine they've taken thus far. I don't know if they're going to take more. This is going to end in an ugly stalemate. Russia will use that area as a buffer zone, and there will be toxic relations between Europe and Russia and probably the United States for the rest of my life. Your lives probably, unless something drastic changes, because things change. They always change. So that's a bummer. And there's no positive, there's no good outcome from that for anybody, from the Russians, for the Ukrainians, for the Europeans, for the Americans. Nobody benefits from that, really. Maybe China. Israel, with the support of the United States, will continue to expand its footprint. The people of Gaza, of the West Bank, the Palestinians, they will be slowly whittled down through forced migration or whatever actions Israel takes to try to disperse or get rid of those people from those areas so that they can have their greater Israel. They're currently expanding up into Lebanon from the south and claiming land there. They've already expanded into what was once Syria, but is now this fractured state. So Israel's going to continue to expand in that way, I think. The war with Iran is really kind of a mess. There's a couple different ways to look at that. I've heard people say, "Oh, they're Trump and his administration. They're playing 4D chess," because it's actually, if you think about it, you've got Ukrainians going after Russian oil lines. You got America went after Venezuela and sort of kind of clamped down on them, and then Iran. And so these are three different locations, three different places where China gets a lot of its oil. And so this is all actually an attempt to show China that if it goes after Taiwan, it's got another thing coming. Maybe that's not actually out of the question. Though from what I've seen of the administration, I don't credit them on an abundance of forethought and strategic decision making. That being said, the impact might be there regardless of the intent. The war with Iran, the shutting down of the Strait of Hormuz, is very consequential. Everybody knows their gas prices have gone up, and around the rest of the world, it's way worse than it is here. Iran can shut down the Strait of Hormuz once. They can do it one time as a nuclear option, and once they have done it, because they have, all of the places around them that have put resources through the Persian Gulf are now going to find pipelines and other ways to move their fertilizer, their urea, their oil, whatever it is, their natural gas. And so the Iranians got to do this one time, and I think that's it. And we'll see that just become a less relevant spot in years to come. But it will still be a big deal for the few years coming. China, let's hope to God China and the US don't get into a fight. That would be catastrophic for both countries and for the world. Catastrophic in a way that we haven't yet seen in any point in history, like globally catastrophic. Yeah. So anyway, whether it's Taiwan, the South China Sea, or the Senkaku Jiaoyu Islands, the disputed islands between China and Japan, those are all potential flashpoints. But if those things I just mentioned previously are enough to make China realize that any strong moves it makes is going to be met with a complete cutoff of resources, because China does import the vast majority of their resources they need to exist. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, China and the United States fighting would be awful, awful, awful. And of course, China is the other, if not the most powerful state on the planet, although their military is not tested. But economically, are they more powerful than us? I think arguably so. I don't know exactly the details, but the two behemoths, and the two behemoths will naturally come into conflict, because that's how great power conflict works. And you need to only go look at John Mearsheimer's The Tragedy of Great Power Politics to get his theory, which is widely accepted as a very, very good theory. The last thing, so here's the last thing. So all that's kind of terrible and scary. The global population is going to crash. If anybody is familiar, there's a guy named Thomas Malthus. People of his ilk are called neo-Malthusians or Malthusians, and they have this belief that humans were just going to overrun like locusts and devour the planet's resources and kill each other and starve each other off, and it's just going to be this horrible, horrible thing. Turns out that's not the case. Once education started to spread around the world, and women, especially women's rights, were on the table, women were now given a choice. Go join the economy or have a family. Most women have found out it's incredibly difficult to do both very effectively. I've seen it firsthand in my life, right? And I think most people are kind of aware that you can't have it all. It's very hard to do. To that end, a substantial number of women around the world have decided not to have children. The number of children born are a direct function of the number of women who want to have children. And so in industrialized societies, we have seen a marked decline to the point where we're not even at replacement level birth rates any longer. United States, certainly Canada, all of Europe, East Asia is in a death spiral. Italy and Germany are also very bad. So we're talking about the most industrialized, most advanced places in the world stopped having kids. Not full sale, but well below population, not even replacement, We're talking about decline. And then I think South Korea is the worst of all of them. Their population decline is crazy fast. Even the rest of the world, Africa, Southeast Asia, places with traditionally high birth rates, still high by comparison, but dropping. So everywhere dropping. This is going to have a profound impact on the global economy, production, and consumption. And you couple this very serious thing with the fact that the United States, after World War II, created this global economic system where they got to call the military shots against Russia, and the rest of the world were now able to more cheaply participate in a global economy, and billions of people were brought out of poverty. That system is about over. The United States doesn't seem interested in maintaining that system for various reasons, but that they don't seem interested is evident. And so we're seeing population decline, and we're also seeing a contraction of globalization, call it what you like, globalization, because I was particular about that in week 9, which is gonna throw the world into chaos. If you're in the United States, Canada, Mexico, you're lucky. These are better places to weather that storm than other places. And if you stuck around to listen to my spiel this long, sorry for the sad news. Good luck.